Everyone keeps telling you to expand your social circle, make more friends, network more, get out there. But what if the reason you have few friends has nothing to do with what's wrong with you and everything to do with what's right? These 6 traits might explain why your small circle isn't a problem at all. Here's something that'll surprise you. Research from evolutionary psychology suggests that our ancestors thrived in groups of around 150 people. But here's the thing. Not everyone in those groups was equally social. Some individuals functioned as what researchers call peripheral members. They stayed on the edges, interacted less, but played crucial roles in group survival through specialized skills and deep focus. Your brain might be wired for that peripheral role. And in modern society, that looks like having few friends. But the traits that put you there aren't weaknesses. They're adaptations, strengths that served a purpose then and still serve one now. If you've got a small circle and you've been wondering what that says about you, these 6 traits will give you answers that actually make sense. Trait number 1, you have high sensory processing sensitivity. There's a neurological trait that about 20% of people have. It's called sensory processing sensitivity. Dr. Elaine Aron's research shows that people with this trait have nervous systems that process information more deeply and thoroughly than average. What does this mean for friendship? Everything. Your brain doesn't just hear what someone says. It registers their tone, their facial micro-movements, the energy in the room, background noise, lighting, everything happening simultaneously. One conversation gives you the sensory input that most people get from 5. This isn't sensitivity in the emotional sense, though that's there too. This is literal neurological sensitivity. Your brain is picking up more data points per second than the average person's. So, when you're in a group setting, you're not just tired from socializing. You're exhausted from processing an overwhelming amount of sensory information. The fluorescent lights, the overlapping conversations, the emotional undercurrents between people. All of it hits your nervous system at full volume. Most people can filter out 80% of that input automatically. You can't. You process it all. This is why you prefer one-on-one interactions in quiet spaces. Not because you're shy, because your brain literally functions better with less sensory chaos. Quality over quantity isn't a preference for you. It's a neurological requirement. Trait number 2. You score high on openness to experience. The Big 5 personality research identifies openness to experience as one of 5 core personality dimensions. People high in this trait are intellectually curious, imaginative, and drawn to novel ideas and experiences. Here's what researchers found. People high in openness often have fewer friends. But the friendships they do have tend to be more intellectually stimulating and less conventional. Why? Because your interests don't align with what most people talk about. While others bond over sports scores or reality TV, you're interested in ideas, systems, meanings, why things work the way they do. This creates a compatibility problem. Not because you think you're better than anyone, but because genuine connection for you requires intellectual engagement. You need conversations that go somewhere, that explore something, that leave you thinking differently than when you started. Most social bonding happens through shared activities and repeated exposure. But for someone high in openness, bonding happens through shared curiosity. You connect with people who ask interesting questions, who challenge assumptions, who think independently. That pool is much smaller. So your circle stays small, not from social failure, but from the natural consequence of having a mind that needs more than surface interaction to feel genuine connection. You're not avoiding people. You're searching for the specific type of people your brain actually connects with. And that search takes longer. Trait number 3. You have strong internal locus of control. Psychologists measure something called locus of control. It's where you believe control over your life comes from. External locus means you think outside forces control what happens to you. Internal locus means you believe your choices and actions determine your outcomes. Research consistently shows that people with strong internal locus of control are less socially dependent. They don't need external validation as much because they trust their own judgment about their lives. Here's how this affects friendship. Most people use their social circle as a validation system. They check their decisions against what friends think. They measure their worth by social feedback. They need the group's approval to feel confident in their choices. You don't. You've developed the ability to validate yourself, to trust your own assessment of situations, to make decisions based on your values rather than social consensus. This makes you appear distant or overly independent to others. But you're not rejecting connection. You're just not using connection as a substitute for self-trust. You'll seek advice when you genuinely need information, but you don't need someone else's approval to feel okay about your life direction. This fundamental difference means you naturally require less social contact than people who externalize their sense of control. Your small circle reflects confidence in your own navigation system, not fear of others. Trait number 4. You practice what psychologists call strategic social investment. There's fascinating research on something called socio-emotional selectivity theory. As people develop self-awareness and understand that time is limited, they become more selective about where they invest social energy. Most people don't think strategically about their relationships. They maintain friendships out of habit, obligation, or fear of being alone. Their social circle expands by default, not by design. You're different. You've developed what researchers call strategic social investment. You actively choose where your limited social energy goes. You evaluate relationships based on mutual growth, authentic communication, and aligned values. This isn't cold calculation. It's resource management. Your social energy is finite. Every relationship requires maintenance, emotional labor, time, and mental space. You've recognized this, so you invest deliberately. When a friendship stops serving both people, you let it fade. When someone consistently drains more than they contribute, you create distance. When values diverge too much, you acknowledge incompatibility. Others see this as being picky or difficult, but you're operating from a framework most people haven't developed yet. You understand that saying yes to everyone means saying no to depth. That unlimited shallow connections prevent the few deep ones you actually need. Your small circle is the result of conscious curation, not social failure. You're gardening your relationships, keeping what grows well and composting what doesn't. Trait number 5. You have low fear of negative evaluation. Social anxiety research distinguishes between general anxiety and fear of negative evaluation. That's the specific worry about what others think of you. Most people score high on this. They organize their behavior around avoiding others' judgment. You score low. Research shows that people with low fear of negative evaluation maintain fewer friendships but report higher relationship satisfaction because they're not performing for approval. This trait changes everything about how you socialize. You don't laugh at jokes. You don't find funny. You don't pretend to agree when you disagree. You don't adjust your opinions to match the room. You don't perform interest in topics that bore you. Not because you're rude, because you're not afraid of someone thinking less of you for being yourself. Most friendships are built on mutual performance, both people slightly editing themselves to maintain harmony and approval. But you can't maintain that long term. It exhausts you. So you only pursue friendships where you can show up as you actually are. This drastically reduces your compatible pool. Most people need you to perform a little, to smooth your edges, to be easier. When you won't, they drift away. But the few people who stay, they're staying for the real you, not the performed version. That's why your few friendships feel more solid than other people's dozens. You'd rather have 3 people who know you truly than 30 who know a carefully managed version. And that's not a flaw. That's clarity about what actually constitutes connection. The final trait on our list is you experience what researchers call productive solitude. Most research on solitude focuses on loneliness and its negative effects. But recent studies distinguish between harmful isolation and what psychologists call productive solitude. Productive solitude is time alone that generates creativity, self-reflection, emotional regulation, and personal growth. People who experience productive solitude don't just tolerate being alone. They actively use that time for internal development. You do this naturally. When you're alone, your mind doesn't spiral into loneliness. It explores ideas, processes, experiences, integrates information, creates things, solves problems. You're not just passing time until someone's available. You're engaged in internal work that actually matters to you. Research from neuroscience shows that the brain's default mode network, active during rest and solitude, is crucial for memory consolidation, self-referential thinking, and creativity. Your brain uses alone time productively in ways that require actual solitude, not just physical isolation while wishing for company. This changes the friendship equation entirely. Most people seek friends to escape the discomfort of being alone with themselves. You seek friends to share what you've discovered in solitude. You're not running from yourself into company. You're returning from yourself to selectively share with others. That's a completely different motivation structure. Your few friendships exist because you genuinely want those specific people in your life, not because you need anyone to rescue you from your own company. That makes every friendship you have a choice, not a defense mechanism. These 6 traits explain your small circle better than any story about social failure. High sensory processing sensitivity means you need less stimulation. Openness to experience means you need more intellectual depth. Internal locus of control means you need less validation. Strategic social investment means you choose carefully. Low fear of negative evaluation means you show up authentically. And productive solitude means you're genuinely okay alone. None of these are problems. They're the architecture of how your mind works. Your few friends aren't evidence of something missing. They're evidence of something present. Discernment, self-awareness, intentionality. If this explains something about yourself that finally makes sense, subscribe to this channel. We break down the psychology behind who you are using actual research, not recycled motivation. Every video gives you frameworks for understanding yourself that you won't find anywhere else. Real science, real insight, real clarity about why you work the way you do. Hit subscribe. Your self-understanding matters more than the algorithm.